Well, many thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Report Desk Africa, and now we'll be looking at the flooding and landslides in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Authorities say that at least 401 persons have been killed in the flooding and the landslides that swept through the DR Congo this week. They further said that 205 persons were seriously injured in the flooding, and this was caused when rivers burst their banks following heavy rains on Thursday, while 167 people were and are still listed as missing. Now, President Felix Tshisekedi declared a day of national mourning on Monday, and a team of his ministers are to travel to the region to coordinate humanitarian aid and disaster management. Well, just yesterday, 10 persons died in a new landslide that occurred after heavy rain overnight from Tuesday to Wednesday in a landlocked area in the eastern part of the country. Now, my colleague here and my co-anchor, Bernard Akede, has made things easier because he has packaged a report. And in that report, he explains how the challenges that have been faced by journalists across are actually affecting the DR Congo, both the journalists and the people of DR Congo. The report was packaged by Adegboye, pardon me. Now, this report explains how people have been suffering the dire effects of the flooding in DR Congo. Please take a look.
Rivers in the Democratic Republic of Congo have burst their banks, bowing to the pressure of the heavy rains. As a result, several villages are now submerged and many houses have washed away, leaving the fields devastated. More than 200 people have died from the tragic incident, leaving families to mourn. Gentile is the only survivor of her family after losing all her children to the flood, but she is hopeful that her husband is still alive.
Kwenye niko sina jamaa, sina shamba, sina nini. Hivi mimi nabakia mu familia ya wengine tu. Mwenye mimi nabakia na naye ni bwana yangu. Na watoto wangu wananiisha.
Authorities say more bodies are still being recovered, but the rescue workers say they are overwhelmed by the number of victims recovered from the incident amidst limited funding.
Tunawazia ke na zenye zilienda mu mai après 3 jours zitakuwa deja ziko natoka nje. Donc tunajiuliza tutazifanya namna gani? Hakuna masake mortuaire, hakuna financement rapport ya nani ya ramassage. Ile ndio inatusumbua zaidi.
Doctors at the Mother and Child Hospital where survivors are being treated also say they have reached their limit as there are not enough facilities here.
L'affluence des cas démontre bien qu'on est débordé parce que nous avons déjà dépassé notre capacité d'accueil. Pour les lits, vous constatez que certains dorment à même les sols.
Heavy rainfall in the Kalehe region of the South Kivu province on Thursday caused rivers to overflow, leading to landslides that submerged the villages of Bushushu and Iyamunkube. The villagers are scared that things may get worse as many residents are still missing.
Normalement, les choses vont s'empirer parce qu'on vient de m'informer qu'il y a un garçon qui était là-bas de 25 ans. Il vient de décéder tout de suite là à l'hôpital. Et donc, les autres qui sont là, on ne sait pas. Alors, j'ai dit au gouvernement provincial et national de nous venir en aide parce que les gens vivent difficilement.
Rwanda is also facing similar disaster after floods from heavy rainfall killed hundreds of people and destroyed thousands of homes. The United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres offered his condolences to the victims of the catastrophic floods in Rwanda and the DR Congo. Adeshawa Odushoga reporting for News Central.
Quite a devastating story there from Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Might I mention, for those who do not know, that both countries are actually bordering one another in certain places. Now, this is the time where the two countries have to come together. If you do remember, Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda having certain clashes in the past, but now this is the reason for them, I believe, to come together. Now, joining us to discuss this tragic turn of events is News Central's correspondent, Dapo Adegboye. Now, News Central Television has been following this particular story, and so we're going to be discussing this, all three of us. Dapo, sorry we're pulling you into a very, very sad story, but yeah, it's what's happening in the eastern part of the continent. And as I've been reading, it just might even be getting worse. I'm seeing here now that just recently we have more information saying about 200 children have been killed, 90 have been separated from their parents or from their families, and we also see that there's more than 5,500 people who are still missing, and an estimated 3,000 homes have been destroyed, including 6 schools. And this is in the Democratic Republic of Congo alone. We haven't even talked about what's going on in Rwanda. Now, sadly, where I'm bringing you in is we see floods like this happen year in, year out, particularly during the rainy season. And we know that we are just getting into the rainy season. I mean, floods are a natural, or should I say, a global phenomenon right now. But have we gotten to the time where African countries should preempt, should expect that these floods would happen during the rainy season and put in some kind of measures to, even if we cannot prevent the floodings or the landslide, at least to limit the damages caused?
All right, Ben, once again, thank you for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure. I mean, the Congo flood story is a pretty much tragic one. And so tragic is the fact that lots of lives, were lost, children, including adults, and it's really, really sad. But let's do a bit of backstory into, the geographical location of Congo itself, right? Congo is actually strategically located, around the equatorial center that is susceptible, not just now, but over the years, to one of the highest level of precipitation and even thunderstorms in the world. Some reports have it that Congo, DR Congo experiences one of the worst thunderstorms, if not the worst in the world. And let's also not forget that the second largest rainforest after the Amazon rainforest is the Congo rainforest. Is located there. And so what does that tell you? That the location of Congo itself, places it at a point where when it comes to natural disasters such as flooding and landslides, I would not say one should expect such, but it's almost inevitable because of the geographical positioning of Congo itself. Now, that established, it's really sad that it's happening. However, there's something that is pretty almost certain, and that is you cannot fight nature, right? You can only try and adapt or manage nature, right? It's not like a physical, the enemy, you can actually predict the next. Nature is not like that. It will happen. So, and of course, there has been warnings and warnings way before now. We've seen last year we had last year we had the COP conference where climate change was an issue. Now, climate change is actually real. Now, the big question is, there has been a lot of talks about climate change. There has been a lot of talks about change in the weather pattern. What are we doing about it? What is Africa doing about it? How is Africa positioning itself to ensure that should events like this happen, they can predict it and then, sort of be proactive? So these are the real reasons. But unfortunately, I think the only conversation that I've seen really sustained since the COP is, Africa emits some of the least or contributes the least when it comes to global warming. Yeah. And so there should be repatriation. It's all about the fund. What I'm doing with the funds. So it's really sad, but like I said, when it comes to nature, you can't fight it. We can only find a way to either adapt to it or to manage the
exactly damages.
Well, so it's more or less the climate situation. The nature has existed for the longest time, but we can't change the fact or avoid the fact that the devastating effect of the climate change is becoming more and more unavoidable and inevitable. And it's so sad because it's not just the DR Congo, right? We know where the geographical location plays a part in this, but it's not just the DR Congo. We see other African countries, Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso, there's Mali, there's Cameroon. All these countries are suffering the dire effects of of climate change, and especially flooding. And it's so devastating because there is always the COP meetings, but I feel like it looks as though they're more focused on a long time solution. It's okay to plan for a more sustainable solution, but what can we do in the meantime to avoid, because it's like every single time it rains, a village in one African country is wiped out, and a lot of people are dying, a lot of people are getting displaced.
You just gave me an idea now, Blessings, basically. Sorry to butt in here, Dapo, but Blessings just mentioned something now. Speaking about the geographical location of these countries, I'm looking at them, well, if geography still serves me right, I'm looking at these countries around the equatorial region, that equatorial belt of the continent, talking about the tropical countries, all the way from the west to the east. We're talking Mali, we're talking Senegal, we're talking Togo, Benin Republic, Ghana, Nigeria, and then moving all the way to Central and Eastern Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo, Cameroon, Rwanda, all the way down to even to the east, talking about Kenya and the Horn of Africa. Now, all these countries on the equator, if you notice, are the ones that usually suffer heavy flooding, which means it's something that happens year in, year out. It's a function of the location of these countries. But now it's getting worse, like you and Blessings are saying, it's getting worse because of the effects of global warming. Sadly, we don't have so much time to discuss this eventually. Maybe we should be invited to the next COP, who knows? But Dapo, going forward, suggestions. What best can African countries along this belt do? Like you said, we cannot stop nature, but what can we do to limit the damage caused by these kind of floodings year in, year out?
Okay, so number one is sensitization. You can never, have enough of that, particularly for those, outside, urban areas. Look at the area that was, most affected in Congo, the Kivu province area, where, of course, you can see it's mostly villages, right? They may not even be aware of anything called global warming or climate change. So the aspect of sensitization also plays a key role. In fact, it's really important. And then number two, on the aspect of sensitization too, how many of us take weather reports seriously? Is it even a thing in Africa? I know that's abroad, right? If a typhoon is coming, a tsunami is coming, you would see it on the news. And people are pretty much aware that, the government has warned us to evacuate the area, right? It's not left for you to either be stubborn or do the needful. But we don't see all of that in terms of constant, updates as regards the weather pattern. I think that really needs to come back, and it should be at the front burner. And then number three, finance, funding too is really, really important. Now, we know that we cannot fight nature, but how can finance come in? Should an area be really prone to environmental disaster, you might want to relocate those people. It's like starting a new life again. You need funding for that. And then number two, what are the infrastructure in ground? I usually use certain places, for instance, right? Yes, we know that some people have very, very, very terrible behavior when it comes to environmental sanitation. They throw trash into the drainage. But how many of these areas are properly channeled when it comes to
all right,
arrangement?
Dapo, thank you so much for that. And I'm quickly just going to say that regarding what's going on in DR Congo, it's quite devastating and really heartbreaking. And it will be good for international bodies and other neighboring countries to come together and provide humanitarian assistance to these countries. Because in that report, someone was saying that they don't even have body bags. And like it or not, more bodies are going to be unearthed because a lot of villages were wiped out. So hopefully those assistance can be rendered to them. And then we look forward to seeing a change and a lasting solution, hopefully. Thank you so much, Dapo, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.